I am so very excited that today on the show we have Shamika Averett, one of our amazing Girl Life coaches, just an overall inspiring and incredible human being. I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome, Shamika.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, thank you, thank
Uh,
you.
Oh my God, such a pleasure, such a pleasure. I mean, I think like um the first thing I'd love for everyone to know about you, like tell us about your origin story, how you got here, how you got to the work, the important work of empowering girls.
Yeah, I know you kind of read my bio earlier, but just to give you a brief overview, well, I started this nonprofit in honor of my daughter, Gianna Diane Lindsay, and it's called Gigi's Pearls, and it is a girl empowerment nonprofit. It does help girls learn who they are, self-love, friendships, communication. It talks about my healthy body, my changing body, self-esteem, those kinds of things, and I love to incorporate STEM in that, which is going to be your science, technology, math, that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to expand on that as well. So the Girl Life curriculum just came into my world at the perfect time as I was trying to find something that I could really teach the girls that they could take with them when they left. I do work in the school system here in Columbus, with the Muscogee County School District, and I work at one school, it's Dorothy High Elementary, and I work with about 17 girls there this year. I'm working with just the third graders this year. Last year I did third, fourth, and a few fifth, and it was about 30 something girls, and it got crazy. So it was just me and my partner helping me. So this year I said I'll just work with just the third graders. When my daughter passed away, she was in the fifth grade. She was 10 years old. She was a beautiful girl. She was so fun, so helpful, so loving, shy, she had a hard time making friends, but she did make friends. And she's like me. When she makes friends, she makes friends. Like she keeps friends forever. She was funny. She was just a very, very loving child. I feel so honored and blessed to have had her the 10 years that I did. And she's still a part of me. I mean, obviously, she's going to always be a part of my life. I always feel like I'm a mother because she came from me, and she'll always be in my heart every single day that I wake up. And Gigi's Pearls helps me to honor her, and incorporating girl life into that. It was just a perfect mix of just love and purpose. What I'm saying? It was like the love I have for my daughter, I always have, and the purpose, that God gave me through this vision just kind of brought it together, and it just meshed together so well that I just know it's nothing but God, because there's no way you could suffer what I had been through um, without seeing God in that. And the way that God showed himself to me was through the love and purpose that he brought together with Gigi's Pearls and Girl Life Empowerment. And I just feel so, so blessed. But, you know, just to try to give people a brief overview, of course, in January 4th, 2016, I did have a family tragedy in my home. And at the very, very, very unfortunate time in my life, I lost my mother, my daughter, and my brother at the same time to a very senseless act of violence. It's so senseless, it's not even really worth putting a lot of time into. But, we did know a family friend who basically decided that he wanted to come out to our family home and rob my brother at the time, who was 17. And in the midst of that, of course, my mother and my daughter were there, and they were unfortunately murdered. So my stepdad, who works at night, he's a nurse, and he was not home at the time, and he did come home that next morning from work. And you see things like this on TV, and you never think it could happen to you. You see these datelines, you see these first 48, or you see 48 hours, all these different mystery stories, and you see these family tragedies, and you're like, oh my God, you feel so bad for them. And then, you find yourself right smack dab in the middle of that. And you're like, wow. So I tell people all the time, I'm like, you don't go through your life expecting bad things to happen, but you always have empathy and sympathy for people, because you never know if it could happen to you. No one's immune from gun violence or, family violence. No one's immune from that. These things happen every day. I mean, just look at TV, the children that get killed in schools and all this stuff, and these parents that are grieving. It happens every day. So me and my sister, she lives out of Cincinnati. She's my rock. She's younger than me, but she's like keeps me on track. We talk a lot, and so I have two nieces and a nephew that live out in Cincinnati, and my brother-in-law lives there. My stepdad still lives here in Columbus, and so we're 7 years later. We're going on. We're pushing through it, and somewhere in the middle of that 7 year journey, God gave me Gigi's Pearls. And so from there, honoring one person in a sense gave me the ability and the strength to honor all three of them. Because all three of them are a part of Gigi's Pearls when I think about it. They're all a part of it. My mother, I know she would just be so ecstatic, so happy. My brother, the same.
Yeah.
So just being able to honor them the way that I have, I I couldn't be more grateful to be able to do it. Yeah.
You're just such an incredible person, Shamika. And I remember that very first phone call that you and I had, and you shared about what had happened in your family and the tragedy. And I want to ask a couple of questions here because I know that so many people who listen struggle in their own ways, right? Like there
Right.
are tragedies, there are senseless deaths, there are so many things that happen, obviously beyond the scope of any control that we have. And I hear you so beautifully, talking about God or, for some, the universe and how, like, in a time like this, it's amazing to me that you are able to see God in what happened. And I know so many people who've struggled with tragedies who've done the exact opposite, right? They've like questioned their faith and they've questioned their belief in something beyond all of what we see and what we feel. Um, for anyone else who's out there struggling in some way, how can they find faith? How can they renew their faith when they feel like it's all been robbed of them?
I think the main thing is just to give yourself space, give yourself time, give yourself credit for still being here, and don't expect anything from yourself. Just coast through it. Don't expect to be happy one day. Don't expect to be sad. Expect to be in the moment, whatever that moment is. 'Cause that moment could be a very, very sad moment, but then it can transition to a happy moment.
Mhm.
So whatever you are in that moment, just give yourself time and space and grace to be there. And whoever is around you, your support system, they're going to let you be that. They're not going to be like, oh, you should be here, oh, you should be there. You should go outside, or you should get dressed. They're going to let you be in that moment for however long that moment lasts. If they love you, they're going to let you be in that moment, and they're not going to pull you and tug you out of it.
Mhm.
That's what I had to do within myself. I had to say, I'm experiencing something that's pretty unprecedented for, most people I know that are in my circle. So I'm going to transition through my grief how I transition through it. And I'm going to give myself time, space, and energy to be able to do that. And today, if I want to do nothing, I'm going to do nothing. Today, if I want to go on Facebook and write about my feelings and how I feel and write it down, I'm going to do that. Today, if I want to go outside, if I want to take a ride to the beach, I'm going to do that. I'm just not going to allow any kind of outside pressures to tell me how to handle my grief because it's mine. It's personal to me. And so I cannot tell you how to feel or this person how to feel. You know what I'm saying? I was criticized a lot for how I handled some things. But I look back on those things and I realized like that was my grief. That was my time. That was my moment. And nobody can be like, oh, she should feel like this, or she shouldn't be doing this. She shouldn't be smiling. She shouldn't be, you have no idea what that smile is about. You have no idea what that smile came from and what I went through that day to get to that particular moment. So just allow yourself to transition however you want to, and don't be judged by anybody else telling you what you should do and how you should feel in
Mhm.
that moment. Because here I am 7 years later, and I'm just within the last couple of years getting to a place where I can say my daughter's name, my mother's name, my brother's name without feeling broken, completely just wrenched inside. I'm just now getting there, and it's 7 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
So people are like, oh, it happened a year, 2 years, 3 years. That doesn't matter. Your grief is going to be with you. It's like a coat, a permanent coat on your back. It's going to surround you. And sometimes you can take it off and release it, and sometimes you can't. Sometimes you need it. Sometimes it's a comfort for you, and it makes you feel good because you're remembering who they are and
Yeah.
you're remembering that they lived. So grief is something that helps us. We don't want to deal with it. We don't want anybody in our family to pass away. Let's just be real. We want them forever. But inevitably, they're going to pass away. However, God has that happen. Um, and yeah, you do. I did have a lot of anger, as it related to God and my faith. But what I told myself was, I'm not the only one that's suffering, and we live in an evil world. Unfortunately, we live in an evil world. And what helped me was the book called The Shack and the movie called The Shack came out. I didn't want to watch the movies. I know the movie was going to really, replicate the book. So sometimes movies kind of mess books up,
Right.
but the movie really replicated the book a lot. My mother gave me the book years ago. She was in a book club, and she
Wow.
was like, "Here, read this book called The Shack." And I was like, "This is very sad." But looking at it so many years later, my mother was giving me a gift in that moment, and she was just like, and I read the book, I was like, oh my God. Then I saw the movie after they had passed away. And so I totally understood what God, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit is through reading that. And it was told in such a way we could never in our minds be like, what in the world? But it
Mm,
helped us to understand who God is in tragedy. Because
mm,
God is still God in tragedy. He doesn't change. He's immutable. He doesn't change. Even though we go through things, that doesn't mean that God is different because, oh my God, someone was in a car accident and they died, or someone was murdered that we loved. God has not changed. The world changes. People change, People are one way today, and there's a different way tomorrow. That's the product of the environment and the evil world that we live in. And so we have to be aware that that's how people are.
right.
And you got to meet people where they're at when they hurt you or when they do horrible things. You can't look at that person. You have to look at who they are and where they are in their world. Does that mean I have forgiven? I've not forgiven. So I'm going to say that.
I hear
Because
that.
it sounds like she's no. You know what I'm saying? I'm still, go ahead.
No, that's okay. First of all, my dog is here and he wants my attention, so I apologize.
Oh, my dog is roaming around too. She's
Oh, okay. Too
just
bad
got
they can't have
quiet.
a little play date right now because I don't know what
Right.
he wants. But you said so
So,
many important things here. The first thing I want to highlight is that you said your grief is your own. Your grief is your own.
yeah.
So I want
Yeah.
everyone to hear that. You get to play it out. It's your process, however you choose. And I feel like that's not just a message to the person that's grieving, but it's to the supporters of the person who's grieving to allow you to have that, to not try to take that away from you. You said something so important about being in a position to allow yourself to feel what you feel. So it's not just about you giving yourself permission to feel what you feel, but it's also really important that the people around you who are there to make this very excruciating process a little more comfortable, to not say like lighten up or feel better or it's already been 2 years or you should feel this way, to give you that space and let you have ownership of that grief. So I think that permission slip is such an important one that you give to people who are struggling. So thank you for that. And I also want to highlight, I do hear you saying it's an evil world. And I hear that when tragedy strikes like this, you wonder how there's any good in the world. But I'm looking at you right now, a living, breathing example of good, of a woman who took something that was unbearable and turned it into something that is giving gifts over and over and over again. So I want to honor you for that. I want to honor you for all of like, in Hebrew, we call it mitzvot, like good deeds, all of the good deeds that you are now doing in the name of your three family members. It's like, it's something that I think everyone needs to take notes on. Everyone needs to learn whatever happens to us in our lives. How can we transform it? How can we be change agents and way makers in some way, like the way you're doing right now with Gigi's Pearls? So um, with that, I'd love for you to share. Oh, and before I say that, I don't know, I feel such a strong presence right now as you and I are speaking. I feel like you're actually doing this in partnership with your daughter and your mother and your brother. Like you really are. Just the fact that your mom handed you that book, she
Mhm.
handed you a tool that was going to support you after she passed on. Like she's in this. She's a part of all of it. And Gigi, of course, is a part of it, and your brother's a part of it. So again, like, wow, it's, look what's coming through them. And then again, paying it forward to the whole entire planet. So tell us about Gigi's Pearls.
Well, Gigi's Pearls, just a nonprofit that I created, and with the help of some friends. I didn't know what I was doing, and they were like, "We're gonna help you out." So I had a girl here in Columbus that created a nonprofit for me. I found my name on the Secretary of State and reserved it, and thought about Gigi's Pearls. I said, "Okay, Gigi's my daughter's nickname. Her real name was Gianna Diane Lindsay, and so we all called her Gigi, and we called her G." So I said, Gigi's Pearls. I'm literally standing, just being transparent in the shower, and I'm like, okay, what can I do with this pearls thing? What can I do with this? So I was like, pearls, pearls. Okay, powerful, educated, accomplished, resilient leaders in society. Pearls. That's what I want these girls to be. I want to turn these girls into pearls. You
Oh,
know,
wait, you have to
so
say that again. So what does Pearl stand for?
powerful, educated, accomplished, resilient leaders in society.
Amazing.
Pearls.
Amazing.
Pearls. So I'm
Yes.
like, so when I
Say it
go to school, I'm like, hey, I've got these are my pearls, these are my pearls, because they are my pearls. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and that's how I see them as pearls. Pearls are precious and rare. I mean, how often do you get a set of really nice pearls? You know what I'm saying? Or like a pair of pearl earrings, that really come from an oyster, and they're curated and they're made into this beautiful piece of jewelry. And, they go through this process like a diamond. A diamond has to go through this process of like fire and all this, and then it creates this beautiful, beautiful thing. It's the same thing with the pearl. It's you don't just walk in the store and there's a pearl there. It's a process to that whole thing, and it's a rare thing. So I said, pearls is perfect. It's the perfect name for this. And so I started working with the girls. I found a curriculum online that I was working with, and so it was all divine. It was all God, because I found a curriculum that I worked with last year. And the beginning of this school year, I lost the curriculum. Like, I left the folder somewhere. It was a big notebook someone had made for me, and they had tabbed it out. It was called Girl something. I can't remember, but anyways, they had tabbed it out for me, and it kind of was falling in line with what I was doing with the girls, but it wasn't like my heart. It was kind of like, that's something I found. I needed something to go into school with, so I used it. And so, the beginning of this year, I went to school one time to work with the girls, and I lost the curriculum. I couldn't find it. It didn't have my name on it, so it could have went anywhere. But it was very nicely tabbed, so anybody could have used it. So they probably
Hopefully
just took it
somebody's using it to spread some good in the
to
world,
spread some.
right?
Yeah, I'm hoping that's the good thing about it. I'm hoping. But anyway, they didn't throw it away. But I never saw it again. I said, well, Lord, part of me was like, okay, I don't want to do this then. If I can't get a good curriculum, I just don't want to do it. And so I said, what are you saying to me in this moment? So that's when me and you started communicating about a way that we could make this happen. And I reached out to you and I was like, how can we make this happen? How can we make this happen? And me and you came with a wonderful idea. And here we are. You know what I'm saying? So I decided to just say, okay, I jumped, took the leap. I said, you know what? I'm doing this. And when God opened the door and opened your heart to work with me with Gigi's Pearls, there was the rest is history, as they say. It just everything just started to work out so perfectly, and I was so proud to be a part of the Girl Life Academy and incorporate Girl Life Empowerment into Gigi's Pearls. I mean, it's just been amazing. So I did my very first workshop with them. The first part, I didn't go to school in January, because January they're kind of just getting back into school, so I kind of let them get acclimated. So I went in February, and I decided to go around Valentine's Day, because that's the time they got the little Valentines, and it just kind of brought back all these memories of us when we were in school. We bring our little Valentines to school and we pass them out. And so I was like, oh, so I said, well, what I'll do is I'll talk about self-love and self-confidence. It's perfect for Valentine's Day. So I go in there, and I had one of my community partners provide pizza for them. And before we did pizza or anything, we did the activity about self love and self confidence. And they wrote down on the worksheet, what makes them feel loved. I think the worksheet said, and they're writing it down and they're really getting into it. And so we just really enjoyed that, and they did an activity. And so what I love about Girl Life Empowerment, just to put a plug in for how great it is,
Oh.
these workshops, these workshops are so wonderful. I'm having to condense mine down to 30 to 45 minutes because I don't have a lot of time in the school. But these workshops are meant to be 2 hour workshops, 3 hour workshops, where you're really, really getting down with those girls, into the heart and soul of those girls. And that's what I want to do. So there is a worksheet, there's an activity. I mean, the girls take something with them tangible every time they leave. So for me, I'm having to condense a lot of things down, but I can still make it, meaningful in the 35 minutes, 45 minutes I have to an hour that I have with the girls. So I went back this last month and I was able to really do the activity. So this last month we did meditation,
Mm,
which is awesome because the girls were getting ready to go do their Georgia milestones testing.
mm,
So meditation, I taught them about, I worried, I was like, well, are they going to understand what meditation is in the third grade? So I said, well, look, just clear your mind of every thought and just think of something positive and happy. Go, what in your life right now makes you happy? What takes you to a happy place? And they're like, oh, I think about my mom, or I think about the beach, or I think about my dog. I said, okay, well, think about that and get into the positive place in your mind and stay in that place when you're testing.
right.
Don't think about anything negative. Don't think about what the next person is doing. Just focus on yourself. And that is how you clear your mind of any negative thoughts and focus on only positive because you want to really do great well on the test. One of the things I asked them was, how do you feel about the test? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you nervous about it? Are you, you know? And they were like, oh, some were like, oh, well, I know everything. And some were like, no, I was like, okay, that's good. Some were like, well, I'm a little nervous. I don't know. I said, so for those of you that whether you know it or you don't know it, I said, this is going to apply to you. I said, so we're going to make a meditation pillow. And you're going to take your pillow every time you think anything negative and just remember this moment. Remember that you have to stay in a mindful, stress-free, I didn't want to use words they didn't say, but stress-free place, in a happy place when you're thinking about going to testing next week. The next week they did practice testing, and then the next week is when they did the real testing. So they did make a pillow. I bought them stickers. They decorated their pillow. We stuffed it with the pillow stuffing and we stapled it together.
Nice.
And I posted on Facebook pictures of them holding up their pillows. And I do strongly believe they took something from that. And so the activity, the worksheet it comes with too, that they did the worksheet. Um, and I think the worksheet says what makes you feel peaceful or something like that. I can't remember. I don't want to quote it wrong. But they were able to write in the bubble with the girl. And she's sitting, in her like stance like this, in her yoga stance.
Yes.
And they can write in there, what makes them feel peaceful. And they really grasp the concept of these workshops and they understand, I'm the one I stress out a lot because I'm like, are they gonna understand what I'm trying to convey? But once you take out the workshops and you start talking to them, they're like they run off with it. They totally get
Oh
it.
yeah, they
You
love
know,
it so much.
yes,
They just like, and then you have all this stuff planned, right? That you want to talk
yes,
to them about, but they are so full of like information and curiosity that
yes.
they end up chatting so much, and it's exactly what's meant to come through. So I know what you mean. And I just love to hear how it plays out in your community. And like we just had another girl life coach also do the like this whole standardized testing thing and all the pressure these kids feel. She also went in and did a mindfulness activity with her son's class. So it's like so good to see the messages taking flight and like the beautiful way that each of you puts it out there. And like I have to say, when I see your photos on Facebook and Instagram, it's like the most amazing thing for me because the energy, like there's such an energy that comes through, I find in photos, like, the ones that have just been curated for Instagram and social media, and the ones that are just so for real. And I
Mhm.
really get that from everything that I see you put out there. I see the joy behind it, the intention behind it, and it's just gorgeous to witness. So good. So
Melanie, these girls, I'm gonna cut you off, but they have so much fun. I mean, when I tell you, they take over. Sometimes I go into teacher mode. I'm like, look, hey, look, first of all, it's a privilege to be in Gigi's Pearls. Okay. It's a privilege. Don't forget the privilege
yeah.
because they'll come in there and they're so excited to be in the program. They're so excited to be in Gigi's Pearls. And
Yeah.
they come in, they're ready to go. And I was listening to one girl, we're doing an activity, and one girl tells another girl, she's like, I love Gigi's Pearls. I love coming in.
It's so sweet. They
It
look
just warms
forward
my heart.
to it. They want
They
their
really
time with
do.
you and they want their time
Yeah.
with each other,
Yes. They
right?
really, really do. It's so empowering. I love it.
It's
I
so
love it.
empowering. Do you know what workshop's coming up next?
Okay, so the end of the year is coming. So I'm thinking in my mind about gratitude or goal setting.
Mhm.
I may say goal setting for the summer because I'm now that I have the curriculum, which I'm so, Lord knows, so grateful because I do workshops with them in the summer. So last year I did a workshop where I taught with them about like summer reading. So I had two authors that I know, one's on my board and one's a friend of mine. They wrote books. So they came and they actually read their book. One read their book to the girls and gave them a copy of it. And then another girl, she read her book. She actually gave the book to the girls, and I have it. I'm gonna actually show it. It's such a beautiful book. Um, so she's an author. It's called True Friendship is Sweet.
Oh, I love that.
So all the girls got a copy of this book last summer. I did my workshop. So my workshops are meant to be a way to continue to connect with the girls in the summertime because in the summertime kids go here, they go there. They just kind of disconnect. So it's a way for me to still kind of keep them cohesively together. So
Yeah.
this year I'm going to try to do two, if I can, workshops. Depending on the kind of help that I have. But mostly, I would love to do two workshops. Either I'll end my year out with gratitude, or I'll end my year out with goal setting. So, goal setting, again, like I said, I may save that for the summer because that way they can start thinking forward on what they want to do. What
Right.
do I want to get out of the upcoming school year? Okay, I may be going to fourth grade, I may be going to fifth grade. What am I trying to get out of the upcoming school year? What do I want to learn that really excites me? What are some goals? Do I have a goal to read 3 books this summer? Saying, or do I have a goal? Some of them are in the summer reading program.
Right.
So is my goal to work on my math and really get skilled at some things so I can be ready next year for whatever math curriculum they give me. So healthy. So goal setting will be one of them, or gratitude. So I may end the year out with gratitude and have them just think about this past year and what they're grateful for. What
Right.
makes them happy? What have they really got out of this year that they can say, oh, I made a new friend, or I'm grateful for my new teacher, or I'm grateful for the things I learned that I didn't know this year. So having them think outside the box on what makes them grateful.
Yeah.
So either one of those is kind of what I'm teeter-tottering between, because we have a end of the year party, but I also want to make sure that I do something with them that they can take tangible as they leave for the summer. So
I love it so much. And like gratitude, I feel like no matter whether we're doing it during Thanksgiving or whether
yeah,
like no matter when we lead that or really any workshop, it's always well received. And it really turns gratitude just transforms everything into enough, a feeling of I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I am enough. Everything is enough.
yeah,
So I would love to see you close the year out with that.
yeah.
So I'm kind of switching gears, but a question that I love to ask everyone who comes onto the podcast, and take your time to think about it because I didn't prep you for this one, but
Okay.
what would you say to your 8-year-old self? Because as you know, a girl's self-confidence peaks at age 9. And so I always love to get into the head of women who look back on those years and say like, wow, I wish I had this message, or if I had the opportunity, I would really like to say this to my 8 or 9 year old self. So is there something that's coming through for you?
Yes, when I was 8 years old, I was living in Germany. And I would tell my 8 year old self, girl, live in this moment. You are going to remember these moments for the rest of your life. You're living in history right now. You know, play in the snow, walk in the snow, make more snow angels, make as many friends outside of your own culture as you can, which I did do that. But just, and I did that not even knowing, obviously, as a kid that you're doing that. But you know, really become engulfed and really, submerge yourself in the culture of where you are. You're living in a beautiful country that you may or may not ever come back to. And you're getting to experience things that a lot of 8 year olds may not get to experience. I mean, you're walking through castles, okay? Real
Right.
life castles in Germany. I mean, you're walking through dungeons, like you're really experiencing some things. You're looking at this beautiful countryside. I mean, you're going to, Herbertus, which is a beautiful, beautiful forest that has you're camping outside with other kids. I mean, you're experiencing Kris Kringle, which is the Christmas mart that they have. You're experiencing so many things that so many 8 year olds do not get to experience. I mean, you're living in Germany at a time where the Berlin Wall was like coming down and they were like, bringing East and West Germany together into one thing. They were literally
What a
chopping down the
moment
wall.
in history.
Yes, they were
Goodness.
literally, yes, the wall was literally coming down during the years that I was living in Germany, so I would be like, embrace your friends, I'm saying, all of your friends, all the different cultures of your friends, because you're meeting Italian people, you're meeting Black people, you're meeting African people, obviously, you're meeting German, you're meeting all these different cultures. Embrace these cultures. It's going to shape and mold you into who you are. It's going to shape and mold you into the woman that you are. That way, when you go out in the world, you won't feel so shy about meeting different cultures and different people because you grew up around these people. So embrace them, embrace who they are, learn who they are, learn about their culture and how they live. So that when you get older, you're not in a place where you're like, oh, I only want to be with this type of person because this is what I'm used to. I see a lot of my friends as an adult who are like that. And I feel so grateful that I lived in a country where I met so many different people from different walks of life and backgrounds and cultures that it's one reason why I feel like I chose to go to Georgia State University in Atlanta, because Atlanta is such a melting pot and Georgia State is a melting pot of a school that
Mhm.
has so many different cultures, and I just gravitated to that. And I think that was because, of me living in Germany and meeting so many different people. I felt so comfortable, going to a school that was so cultured. So I
Yeah.
would tell myself, my 8 year old self, like, live in this moment because this is history. You're going to tell people 30, 40 years from now, what I'm saying, what you lived and how you lived in Germany and how it shaped and molded your life. Don't take anything in this moment for granted because you are living in a special time.
Ooh,
But I
brilliant.
would,
I love it so
yeah,
much. What a beautiful
yeah,
message. And I feel like the My Diversity Shines workshop, it's like in a nutshell, you just summed it up because that's what it is. Like,
yeah.
having friends from different parts of the world, getting curious about other cultures, not taking it for granted. And now I have to ask, how did you end up in Germany when you were 8?
We were military. I moved there when I was 7 years old. My sister's dad actually was military, and it was his second stint in Germany. So he took my mother to Germany after they got married, and he knew Germany already, so he already kind of understood the culture and kind of could navigate his way around. So, like I said, we went to the castles and stuff. He already knew what these things were, so which was great. So we lived there from the time I was about 7 years old until I was about getting ready to turn 13. So I
Oh,
went to
wow.
Frankfurt Middle School there for a little while, and then left Frankfurt Middle School and we moved to Fort Bragg in Fayetteville. And I went to Ann Chestnut Middle School there. And then from Ann Chestnut, we moved here to Columbus. And I went to ninth, 10th, 11th, well, ninth through 12th grade here. in Columbus, Georgia. So yeah, it was actually, it was a beautiful, beautiful time. Met so many people there, and just like I said, I would not have changed that for anything. I love being able to say that I was able to live in another country and
Yeah.
experience the culture. So
And do you
it's
speak German?
wonderful.
Do you speak German?
No,
Okay.
yeah, ich sprechen Sie keine Deutsch. A little bit of, enough to not know anything.
Right, right. But you said
It's
something.
just a little bit, but that's all I know. But no, it's so funny because it's amazing how your brain just does not grasp things, because we did get taught German every day.
Right,
Our
right.
German teacher would come and teach us German every single day, and we would say, so I'm like, I should know fluent German. But anyways, we would sing this German song, and so it's just hilarious. But at the time, as a kid, you're like, oh, here comes a German teacher. Now
Right.
I wish I paid more attention so I could know something.
Right, right. It's all good.
But
Listen, it is all as it is meant to be, and it's so okay.
yes,
I have my little James here asking for my attention, but I just one final question for you.
yes.
Is there anything you want to share that you didn't have the opportunity to share? Anything that you want people to know? A message you want to leave people with?
Well, I would just tell people that, are going through anything and are going through any type of hardship in their lives, whether it be grief or whether it be depression or anything like that. And one thing that I learned about God is, and this is the scripture, his strength is made perfect in weakness. So, don't feel like you have to be so strong or you have to be so well all put together, because that's not how life is. People see me on Facebook a lot, and I'm usually smiling and I'm with my friends. I'm usually having a good time. But, behind that is a weakness I had to go through to get to that part of my life. And it was not very easy. It was not an easy thing. I have not always had it together. I don't have it together now. God is helping me. But what I say is that, even through the most weakest times in my life, God was there. And there's a quote in the Bible that says, his strength is made perfect in weakness. And I tell people, how can you ever experience God's perfect strength if you're never weak? You
Mm,
have to go through those weak moments in your life. You have to be able to say, you know what, I'm not strong today. I'm not happy today. And that's okay. And allow God to come in and fill in those gaps where you feel empty and where you feel broken and where you feel sad. Allow God to do that. He was able to do that for me. That's how I was able, in those broken moments that I felt like I couldn't do anything or wake up and get myself together. In those broken moments, God filled in those places for me, and he made me really strong in those broken moments where I was able to create Gigi's Pearls, and I
mm,
was able to get in front of these girls and offer them something amazing. I could never do that if I hadn't been broken. I could never do that if I had not been at the weakest points in my life, where I allowed God to come in and fill in those gaps for me. So allow God to come in, fill in the gaps wherever they are in your life, and be okay with it. Live your life day to day, because we're all going to go through something. And reach for something that makes you feel happy, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? As long as it's healthy. Reach for something that makes you feel happy, whether it's walking outside, whether it's being in your own self and in your own moment. And, whatever makes you, sometimes people feel selfish when they
mm,
want to make themselves happy. There's
mm.
absolutely nothing wrong with that. Even if you have 5 kids running around, it's nothing wrong with taking a moment to yourself and wanting to make yourself happy, because you are you, and you cannot live in this life, in this world, without figuring out your own mental health and your own mental capacity. You cannot do that. You can't do it for your girls or your family or your husband, whoever you take care of. You cannot do that if you're not healthy yourself. So
That's
take those moments
good.
wherever they are and live in those moments, and try to figure out what makes you happy, and walk in that, and let God fill in the gaps. That's
Beautiful.
what I say.
Beautiful advice. I hope everyone's hearing you. I know everyone's hearing you. You're so amazing, Shamika. I love talking to you. I really, really, really do. Thank you for sharing your heart with us. Thank you for sharing your story with us, all the lessons that you have learned. And I'm just so grateful to have you as the part of the Girl Life family. It means so much.
Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. I'll
Sending,
see you soon.
I will see you soon.